It should be done here in just a second. Thank you for your patience, guys. Sorry about that.
All good. Thanks,
Just
PJ.
getting, no worries. Thank you for switching that up. Okay, I think we should be good to go now.
Awesome. Cool. Well, welcome again, everyone. It's so nice to connect with you virtually. This is our second pre-arrival session that we have for admitted students for fall 2024. My name's Elizabeth Lorenz. I work in the Kearney International Center as the Assistant Director for International Recruitment. And so I'm joined today by my wonderful colleague, PJ. I'll let PJ introduce himself.
Yes, hello everybody. My name is PJ. I'm the International Recruitment Graduate Assistant for the Kearney International Center.
So today's session is focused all about visas. So hopefully if you're joining us for this session, you hopefully by now have requested your I-20 or received your I-20 and are um, in the process of scheduling your visa interview, or at least making plans to schedule that visa interview. So this session is going to be all about visas and what that process will look like and just best tips and tricks. So I'm going to share my screen. PJ, it looks like you might have to give me permission to share my screen now. Always these fun Zoom things.
Yeah. Okay, 1 second here.
All good.
Okay, should be able to
Awesome.
now.
Perfect. All right. Hopefully everyone can see that okay. So, welcome future Mavericks. We're so excited that you have been accepted for the fall 2024 semester, and we are very excited to meet you in the fall at orientation. And we'll be talking a little bit more about the orientation dates at the end of this presentation. But if you don't know already, the Mavericks, that is our mascot at Minnesota State University Mankato. So now that you've been accepted to MSU, you are officially part of that Maverick family. So we're so excited to welcome you to that Maverick family. Um, so focusing on our topic of visas, this session is going to cover things like how to pay the SEVIS I-901 fee and what that fee is, how to schedule your visa interview, and then most importantly, how to prepare for your interview so that you have a higher chance of success for getting that visa. So PJ, I'll pass it over to you to talk about the I-20.
Yes,
Oh,
so your I-20 is going to be a very important piece of document. You're going to want to have that with you when you are traveling to the States, but more importantly, right now, what your I-20 is going to have is your SEVIS ID information. Your SEVIS ID information is very important. It's a number, and then once you're registered into the CV, it lets the US government know where you are with your degree, if you're making transfers and things like that, it's all going to be updated with your SEVIS. So you want to make sure that your SEVIS ID is active at all times, and you would be working with your immigration advisor throughout your time here in regards to that. You'll also find on your I-20 when you receive it, if you look, it's like the second red circle there, it's going to have your school information. So for MSU, it's going to have a specific code on there as well that you're going to want as well.
and when you receive your I-20, please make sure to read through it very carefully. Make sure everything is accurate. We try our best to not make any errors or mistakes, but sometimes, the system just uh, mistakes happen. So let us know if there's something incorrect on your I-20. But just a quick note about the majors. MSU is limited in what types of majors we can include on that I-20. So for example, if you're studying data science on the I-20, it's probably going to say something like computer and information science. So don't be concerned if the major that's on your I-20 doesn't perfectly match the major that you've declared at MSU. We're just following the parameters of the Department of Education. So certain majors fall within certain program codes. So we have a whole list that kind of breaks down what your major is and how it should look on the I-20. So don't panic if your major doesn't line up exactly. I just wanted to note that because we get a lot of questions from students about that major piece. But once you do have your I-20, the next step that you should do is pay the SEVIS I-901 fee. That fee is a U.S. government fee through U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, USCIS. And it is in most cases, a one-time fee that you will pay for the I-20 of the university you plan to enroll at. So if you're planning to study at Minnesota State Mankato, you would pay the I-901 fee for MSU. So to pay that fee, it is a $350 payment, and that payment is valid for 12 months. So let's say that you're planning to come for fall 2024, but your plans change and you decide to defer your admission to spring 2025. That SEVIS payment will still be valid, so you do not need to repay that fee again if you defer your admission. So it's valid for 12 months. You can make this payment on the website listed here, which is the fmjfee.com website. Just note, it is not a .gov website. Sometimes that can throw students off, but this is the official website where you would make that payment. And so you'll need some of the information from your I-20 in order to process that payment. And that includes that SEVIS ID that PJ had mentioned in the last slide, and then your last name, given name, and date of birth. And in most cases, you can make the payment for the SEVIS fee online through credit card. And then for some countries, there's also the option to make a payment through Western Union. Once you have successfully made that payment, make sure to keep the receipt somewhere with you because you will need it later to bring with you to your visa interview.
Okay, awesome. So you've paid your SEVIS fee. What's next? Now would be a good time for you to schedule your visa interview. So the process, how you'd want to do is obviously you'd look for your U.S. embassy or consulate that is near you, and you have to complete a DS-160 form. It's an online application. You do want to set aside at least 90 minutes to complete this form. So you want to make sure that you have access to good Wi-Fi and a computer for that allocated time of at least 90 minutes to complete this application. At the end of the form, you do have a $185 visa fee that you would have to pay. We do have that link listed on the screen here for you, but you do want to make sure, again, like I said, that you have good Wi-Fi and that you have enough time allocated to complete this form. This form is the first step to applying for the US visa. So once you've completed this, then you can schedule an appointment after you've paid the $185 visa fee.
A few tips for filling out that DS-160 application form. Like PJ said, make sure you have at least 90 minutes set aside to complete that form. So make a cup of coffee or tea or something, have all your documents ready, sit down and get to work on it. Before you fill out that form, something to do is to prepare a photo for the DS-160 application. They will ask for a photo upload. This is the standard passport style photo. So if you recently have applied for a passport and you still have an updated photo that looks like the way you appear now, you can use that photo for your DS-160 application. But if you haven't applied for a passport for a while and you need to update that photo, make sure to get that passport style photo before you fill out the DS-160. And then you can upload a scanned copy of that photo to the application. And that photo is used for the US visa. So when they put the visa in your passport, that is the photo that will be that will appear in the printed visa. So that's what that is used for. The university has put together a guide for commonly asked questions on the DS-160. So we can share that with you. So as you're filling it out, you can follow along with that step-by-step guide to figure out some tricky parts of the DS-160 application. But one thing I want to just note here is under the section that asks for a United States point of contact, we provided the cheat sheet because we get a lot of questions for this. So who should they put for their contact person in the US? And for that section, you actually will choose do not know, and that is completely fine. So do not put a name there. And then you can connect it to the organization name of Minnesota State University Mankato. You'll put that the relationship to you as a school official, and then provide the address and email and phone number information that's listed below. All of this information is in that DS-160 guide that we will share with you. But we just wanted to note that because we get a lot of questions about this section, so it's completely appropriate to choose I do not know for that part.
Amazing. Thank you, Beth. I've also shared the link in the chat if anybody wants to quickly access that as well. But again, it's on our website. So if you are looking to schedule for an expedited visa interview, however, you need to complete your DS-160 and pay the fee before you submit the emergency request. Obviously, a lot of embassies and consulates will have a different process or timeline to be able to schedule those emergency visits. So please make sure you're checking the website for any information where you're going to be applying, making sure what the requirements are, what the timeline might be, because again, it's going to look slightly different depending on where you are at. So please make sure that you do that. Is there anything else I might be missing over here, Beth?
I would say too, for most students, since we're in April right now, if you're in the process of scheduling your interview, you should have enough time to get a standard interview date just by filling out the DS-160 and selecting the earliest appointment date. But we do know that some countries are very backlogged when it comes to student visa processing. So if you are applying at an embassy or consulate where you're not able to get an appointment until September, October, November, etc., that's when you would want to request an expedited visa interview. So if you're seeing appointment dates for like June, July, or even early August, that should be fine. Get those appointment dates. But this is for people who are seeing those late appointment dates after the semester has already started. So hopefully for most students who are attending this session, you'll be able to get in early enough with your visa interview date. But if you're in the case where you need to request an emergency or expedited visa interview, make sure you just follow that process on the US Embassy or Consulate website, like PJ said. All right, so preparing for your interview, you can find a complete list of documents that you should bring with you to the visa interview. So through the US Department of State, make sure that you're reviewing that list of documents and you have everything printed off and organized ahead of time. So we would recommend having it organized in a folder of some kind so you can quickly access those documents when the visa officer requests them from you. It's also important to note you will not have any access to technology. So no phones, no laptops, no tablets during your visa interview. So everything that you bring with you must be printed off. So those documents include the I-20, which should be signed. So make sure to print that off and sign the I-20 with your signature. You should bring your passport. you should bring that CVIS I-901 receipt that we mentioned earlier. That's that $350 receipt. You also need to bring that visa application receipt for the $185 payment. So 2 receipts that you should make sure to print off and bring with you. You can also bring those passport style photos for your visa, especially if you had any issues uploading that photo on your DS-160 application. It's just a good idea to have those photos with you just in case there's any issues with the upload quality. Bring a copy of the admission letter from MSU. You'll also need to have your bank statements and that financial sponsor form printed off. So this is the bank statement and sponsor form that you provided when you requested your I-20. So make sure that everything's printed off so there's no questions about your financial documents. You should also prepare your academic transcripts from your most recent education. So if you just finished your high school or higher secondary education, bring those academic transcripts with you. If you are a college student who maybe is transferring, or maybe you are applying for a master's program, bring your university transcripts with you as well. For countries where English proficiency was required for admission to Minnesota State University, make sure to also bring the copies of your English proficiency test results. So that might be your Duolingo English test score, the TOEFL test score, or maybe the IELTS or something else. So just have those prepared. And then finally, this one is a little bit more tricky for when it comes to documents, but if you have any evidence or documentation of ties to your home country, bring that documentation with you. That's going to include things that show you have strong connections to your home country. So maybe your family owns a business, maybe your family owns property or real estate or a home in your home country. Those types of documents that just show that you are tied and rooted to your home country, that can be really helpful. And the reason that this is suggested as a document to bring with you is because the visa officers will be looking for what your motivation to return to your home country is. So the student visa, as we'll talk about in the next slide, I think it is a temporary visa. So after your studies are completed, the intention is for you to return to your home country. So at the time of the visa interview, the visa officers are trying to determine what is going to be your motivation to leave the US and go back to your home country. So any documentation of those ties just helps you with your case to show that that is your intention to return to your home country. If you don't have a specific document like this, don't worry about it. Just be prepared to explain what your motivation to return to your home country is. PJ, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I think you covered essentially everything.
Okay, cool.
These are some helpful resources for you guys to kind of look over visa tips, interview tips, and things like that. We also do, if you see the last link, the visa prep session, we also do provide visa prep sessions for if you have an upcoming interview, you want to do a few practice rounds. We do provide up to 3 visa prep sessions. I think these are very useful because then it kind of helps you get into the groove of answering the questions. And it's also helpful to get feedback on how you're answering questions, how much you should say. Maybe you're saying so like where your answers are too long or they're too short, then they'd be able to give you feedback. So you can schedule visa prep sessions, up to 3 of them. But then the other links are also very helpful because then you can kind of go over it, look at some tips. We're going to talk about like some more stuff after this slide, so we'll go over it and kind of give you some other tips that might be more helpful for the day of your interview. But it's good to prepare in advance. If you don't want to do any of these, you can always meet with a friend or someone, you value their feedback. You can meet with them and have them do a mock interview with you so that you can kind of practice. If you don't want to do that, you can just record yourself on your phone and kind of listen back to your answers too. That usually helps as well.
Yeah, definitely get used to practicing for your interview and practicing the answers to your questions, getting comfortable with talking about
Yes.
yourself.
Mhm.
So with that, what types of questions should you prepare for? So preparing for your visa interview. First of all, the interviews, as you probably know, you should expect them to be in English. The visa, even if you are coming for the intensive English program, just practice as much as you can to answer the questions in English. Do your best. The visa officers understand if you make mistakes, that is okay. Just practice so you feel comfortable talking about yourself in English. So we put together a list of commonly asked questions or themes that you can prepare for your visa interview. So the first question that you should be prepared to answer is, why do you want to study in the US? And why did you pick this specific university? And when you're preparing answers for visa questions, we like to say, show, don't tell. So show them by giving examples. Don't just say what you want to do, give an example of why you're doing this. So maybe you are coming to the US to study biomedical sciences, and your home country does not have a great program in biomedical science. So you're studying in the US because there's great academic programs and internship opportunities for you, and you found a program that fits your academic and professional goals. So give those tangible examples to the visa officer. You can say that in one sentence or two sentences, but just make sure that you're giving examples of why you're studying in the US and at Minnesota State University. That ties into the second question about what are your academic goals in the US. So you can talk about why you are choosing a specific major. Are you looking for opportunities to research within your program? Are you planning to do some kind of internship with your program? Do you already have an idea of if you want to go on for a master's program? So talk about what these academic goals are so that the visa officer knows you have thought through your academic plans and you're being very intentional with your choice to study in the US. You also will want to give examples of your professional goals after you finish your program. So like I mentioned, let's say you're studying biomedical science and you want to give examples of what you hope to do with biomedical science after you finish your program. Tell the visa officer what those goals are. So maybe you want to take your biomedical science degree back to your home country to work in a research laboratory, or maybe help develop some medical supplies for the medical technology sector. So you want to work in research and development, or maybe you want to work in a hospital supporting the medical team there. So give some tangible examples like that, just so you're well prepared and have show the visa officer that you've thought through to the end of your program and what you want to do with it. Then another theme that you'll need to be prepared to talk about is how to pay for your education in the United States. Obviously, being an international student in the US, you need to have financial support to pay for your education cost. And so you have shown the university your financial documents from whoever your financial sponsor is. Now, in the visa interview, explain to the visa officer how and who is paying for your education. So maybe your mother owns a company and she has been saving up money from her business to pay for your education. Tell that story. Tell the visa officer exactly that. How does your mom have this money? and how is she able to support you throughout your education. Maybe you have a grandparent or an uncle who has set aside some money or sold some property to help pay for your education, and they're really wanting to support you and your future. Explain this to the visa officer. Give those examples of how these individuals have the money that they're able to support you with. And then finally, going back to the ties to your home country, this is that chance to explain to the visa officer, what is your motivation to return to your home country after completing your education? That can tie into your professional goals. So going along with that biomedical science example, maybe you have a specific company or a hospital or organization you want to work for. Tell the visa officer what that is so that they know you have this motivation to return to your home country. Maybe your family owns a business and you're wanting to use your education from the US to support your family business. You could explain that to the visa officer. Maybe you have intentions of starting your own business in your home country. Explain those examples. Ultimately, like I said earlier, the US visa is a non-immigrant visa. So it means that it does have an expiration. So once your academic program in the US is finished, you do need to depart the US at least, and return to your home country, or at least move outside of the US. So the visa officer is going to be looking for these cues from you that show you have that intention to depart the United States. So this list of 5 questions is certainly not comprehensive. Visa officers can ask you anything, but from our feedback of talking with visa officers, talking with international students who have gone through these visa interviews, these are the types of questions that are most commonly asked. So just be prepared to answer these questions and be truthful with your answers. You also do not want to rehearse your answer and sound like you're reading from a script. Talk naturally and just tell the visa officer what your story is. They want to hear the truth from you and what your genuine intention is. So don't try to tell them what you think they want to hear. PJ, do you have anything to add to that?
Right. I would say to just answer the question that they ask. That's one advice I would give. So if they say, why do you want to study in the US and at this university? Just answer that. You don't have to go above and beyond and explain everything about your family tree. That's not necessary. Just stick with what they've asked and kind of keep that answer short. And again, remember, visa interviews are very short, maybe 2 to 3 minutes at most. And so you want to make sure you're making full use of that time. So try and only answer as much as they ask and not overshare and say too much, because then it kind of gets lost in there, like the true meaning of why you want to study in the US. But I know we'll talk a little bit more about it in the next few slides, but that's just one advice I had, is to, again, rehearse your answers, but also don't make it sound like you're reading it off of paper. Make it a little impactful, but it doesn't have to be a long answer either.
That's perfect. I'm just going to put all these up on the slide because I think they're a little out of order. There we go.
Amazing. So you've done all of that. You've paid your CVIS, you filled out your DS-160, you've scheduled your appointment. It's the day of your interview. Yay, you made it. There are a few things to remember. I know Beth had mentioned it earlier, but you will be going through a security checkpoint upon arrival. You won't be able to take phones, laptops, or anything of that sort with you during the appointment. So you'll have to leave that at the security before you go into the interview location. Few things to remember. Arrive early. Sometimes the lines can get quite intense during the appointments. At least for my personal experience, there was a very long line when I went to my interview already, and my interview was very early in the morning. So make sure you're arriving early so you have enough time to get through security. Make sure you eat a good meal because you could be there for a couple hours depending on how many interviews there are, how many students are present, things like that. So you want to make sure you're eating, you've had a good meal to sustain you for those few hours if you have to be in there for that bit. Um, Dress well, comb your hair, look presentable. It doesn't mean that you have to dress formal or like in a suit or anything like that, but you do want to make sure you look clean, your hair is combed back, you look like, fresh. Um, so make sure you're dressing well. Is there anything else you wanted to add, Willem? Okay. The interview is going to be, so once you go through security, you go into another building where the interviews are going to take place. You're going to be in line. Um, Remember the documents that we had talked about earlier. You want all of those with you at the time. So make sure you have a folder. The easiest thing for me personally at the time, I just took everything in like one binder. Everything was kind of separated so I knew where everything was. So anytime if the interviewer wanted a certain document, you could just kind of shuffle through your folder and hand it out right away. So it's good to make sure that you've organized your documents. And then when the consular asks for it, you can just kind of look, where everything is. Makes the process a lot smoother. It is going to be a stand-up visa. Like it's like going to be on like at a window. So they're going to be on their side. You're going to be on this side. But the interviews are very, very quick and they go by really fast. So it can seem very overwhelming, just being on that end and being like, I don't know what questions they're going to ask. I don't know how I'm going to answer this. Take a deep breath, take a breather. You're going to be okay as long as you have your documents in order. Make sure you sleep properly the night before as well, so you're fresh. So get plenty of sleep the night before. I know you're probably going to be really nervous. The jitters are going to happen, but just make sure you've had enough sleep, arrive early, have all of your documents in order, and just breathe. It's going to seem very overwhelming and scary, but if you've prepared enough and you've practiced your answers, it's going to be fine. Just answer truthfully and to the best of your ability. Be prepared to answer questions about, again, like ties to your home country. That could be a question that they ask. You need to show them that you are going to return to your home country. So make sure you have that answers all in order as well. But yeah, just be calm. It's going to be okay. Just take a breather. You're going to be fine. You guys are going to be just fine. I believe in you guys.
Same here. All right. So that kind of wraps up the tips and suggestions we have for the visa interview process. So again, if you want to schedule a visa prep session, make sure that you do so. It can really help you get familiar with the visa interview questions and just get comfortable with talking about your answers. A few reminders though before we jump into our Q&A time. The fall 2024 orientation is going to be here before we know it. So the dates for that is August 19 through 23rd. And this is mandatory for all international students. And you need to be here for that full orientation week. So make sure you are planning your travel and your visa interviews so that you have enough time to arrive at least by August 18th, 2024, so that you are ready to go for orientation week, and then classes will begin that following Monday. You can travel or enter the United States on your F1 visa 30 days before the start date of your program. So you can travel to the US as early as July 20th. Just be sure that if you are traveling early, you have made arrangements for where you will stay during that time, because the university dormitories do not open until the week before orientation for early arrival. And most apartment complexes, if you are living in an apartment, they might not have move-in dates until later in August. So just make sure that you do have a plan of where you will be staying if you're traveling to the US early. But we would love for you to arrive early and meet us. We find that students are more successful the earlier that they arrive because they have time to adjust from the jet lag, from travel, kind of that initial culture shock and just getting used to American culture and even just speaking in English, 24/7. So all of those things take some time. So we do encourage you to arrive as early as you are able. We're so excited to meet you. And we do have a group of peer mentors that are being selected for the fall 2024 semester. And these peer mentors are international students who are currently studying at MSU and are super excited to meet you and just help the new class of students transition to Mankato. So that's the presentation we had prepared for you today about visas. So hopefully you have a few takeaways that are helpful. But now we would love to jump into any questions that you might have. So if you are joining on Zoom, feel free to type your questions into the question and answer box. If you are joining us live on YouTube, feel free to type those into the comment section and we will do our best to answer those.
We do have a question on YouTube. Joseph asks, is there a specific paper format for the printing of passport photos and Form I-20? They clarified that question and said, can I print the I-20 on regular A4 paper?
That's a great question. I have seen quite a few students who have printed their I-20s on A4 paper, and they don't have any issues with that. So that is fine if you print it on A4. Just make sure when you do print that off that you sign the I-20. So A4 format is fine. For the passport photos, I'm just looking it up here because it is on that travel.state.gov list of documents. They include the dimensions and the style of the photo that you should provide. So I'm just going to look that up really quick and we can share that link with you. But if I remember correctly, I think it's like 2 by 3 inches for the passport style photo.
Yeah, I believe so. I think it's one of those.
Yeah. Just bear with me. I will find this and we can share it with you. But while I'm looking that up, are there any other questions, PJ?
Not on YouTube. No.
Okay.
Actually, we have a new question. Someone said, can I request a new I-20?
That depends.
Yeah.
It depends. Because we have to process so many I-20s for our students coming for fall 2024, we are not able to just reissue brand new I-20s. For example, if a student wants to change their major and we've already issued the I-20, we will not be able to provide a new or updated I-20 for you. If we made a mistake on your I-20, like the name is spelled incorrectly, or your date of birth is incorrect, or your country of birth, something like that, that there's an error on it, please let us know. We will reissue I-20s for errors that we have made. But if it's just updating information like financial sponsor or your major, we will not be able to process those requests. So that was what the I-20 request form was for. You needed to have verified that information when you submitted that request. And so we issued it based on what you provided at that time. But we just do not have the staff capacity to be constantly updating I-20s for majors. Otherwise, we would never get I-20s out for all of the students. So that's the answer for that. If it's a true mistake and it needs a correction, let us know. If it's an update, you can update that once you arrive in Mankato, and we can always provide a new I-20 at that time.
So I did find the passport photo requirements on the travel.state.gov website. I can share the link on YouTube as well as here. So if you guys wanted to look at that, it has all the dimensions and like what do's and don'ts of there. And there's also a tool in there within the website, so you can upload your passport photo and see if it meets the criteria. But I can do that right here. And I think we have another question on Zoom.
We do. Question.
Someone asked, yeah, you can ask. Let me post this on YouTube.
My interview is on August 1st. Is that too late? No, August 1st will be fine. Just know that you should make, once you get your visa and hopefully that is approved, I would say just schedule your flights as soon as possible so that you can get a flight that arrives by August 18th or earlier. So it is a little bit of a tight turnaround, but no, August 1st will still give you enough time to arrive in Mankato. We've had students who've had visa interviews all the way up till like August 10th and August 15th and are still able to get to Mankato on time. You just have to be very strategic with your travel plans. And my other recommendation is while you're waiting for your visa interview, do your research ahead of time on the flights that you want to book. Do not schedule them until you have that visa in hand, but just kind of have an idea of what flight you want to take. Also, do research about where you want to live. So don't book your housing or sign any leases or contracts until you have that visa in hand, but just have your top 2 or 3 options of where you would like to live, either on campus or in the apartments. That way, once that visa is approved, you can just go and fill out all the applications, book your flights, and do everything that you need to do.
Yeah, it's just going to be a really tight turnaround, but it's definitely doable.
Yeah.
For sure. I'm trying to see if we have any other questions.
Oh, that was you. I was like, one came in the chat. That was the link you shared.
That was me.
Got it.
Um, I think it was an extension of the previous question asked. It disappeared, but I think it said, I think there's an error on my I-20 because it says my program is for 5 years.
Oh, yeah, that's a great question. It is not an error. So the university as a standard process, always issues undergraduate I-20s for 5 years, even though your program is meant to be completed within 4 years. We give that additional year as a program extension because sometimes students need a little additional time to complete their program. Maybe they decided to double major or change their major and they end up needing another year of extension. So this is very common. So don't be concerned that that's for 5 years. The visa officers are used to seeing this, but if for some reason they ask, you can just say that your program is 4 years, that additional year is just to provide an extension for you to finish on time. That's a great question though.
I think those are all the questions we had on YouTube.
Great.
One of the students said, I need a job.
Come to campus.
Yeah, come to campus and you
Come to
can
campus.
apply for jobs here once you're here.
Yes, once you're on campus, then you can start applying for jobs.
Yes, yes.
And on that note, we have a series of pre-arrival webinars just like this that are discussing different topics. And one of those is going to talk about housing and I think employment opportunities and finances and jobs. So just make sure you're checking the emails from us so that you attend these webinars and get all the information before you arrive.
I hope that answers your question, Abhishek. Yep, I think that's all the questions on YouTube. And again, if you guys have any other questions, just put it in the Q&A if you're watching on Zoom. But these are all really great questions.
They are great questions. Well, if that wraps up all the questions for today, we will end our session And we look forward to seeing you in our next pre-arrival session. So thank you all
Yay.
so much for taking the time out of your day to join us. We hope this was helpful and that you have a successful visa interview.
Good luck. You guys are going to do great. Just make sure you practice. You're going to be fine. Just take a deep breather, calm yourself. Get plenty of sleep the night before. That's very important. But you
Definitely.
guys are going to do great. Make sure you have all of those documents as well. The recorded session will be on YouTube as well. So if you guys want to go back and look at any information, you guys can do that. But I also highly recommend scheduling a visa prep if you want to get some practice in. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.